Hey guys, welcome back to Joy Down to Business. We took a small break, but we're so excited to be back and doing more episodes. This episode, we're talking about officer tryouts and hearing from retired officers about their tips and tricks and some pieces of wisdom. But before we do that, let's do some birthdays and announcements.
So we wanted to take a minute to celebrate the June and the July birthdays that we missed when we took a little break. So happy late birthday to Celeste from Eastside on July 31st, Jaylene from Gunslingers in July, Riley from Spinnakers in June, Madison from Spinnakers in July, Nikki from North Queens on July 9th. Happy belated birthdays to each and every one of you. And then now for our August and September birthdays. From Ballard, we have Amara on August 10th and Vicky on August 22nd. From Eastside, we have Hayden on September 3rd. From Gunslingers, we have Sydney in August and Shannon's birthday is in September. And then from the Senoritas, we have Jordan on September 1st and Mary on August 4th. And then from North Queens, we have Cassie on August 27th and Destiny on September 1st and Joyce on September 8th. And then Spinnakers, we have Quinn's birthday in August. So happy birthday, you guys.
Yeah, happy birthday. Now to a couple of announcements. Ballard is having a straight out of Ballard shirt fundraiser. And if you're interested, you can contact them through Facebook or email them at ballardeaglesjillteam@gmail.com. Gunslingers is having their awards ceremony on November 12th. Also, if you're interested in joining a drill team in your area, reach out to someone. If you're interested in joining a drill team in your area or know someone else who may be interested, reach out to the SDTA on Instagram or Facebook, or reach out to any team, and we can help you find someone. Yeah. Find a team. Yeah, let's go meet our guests. Well, hi guys, thanks for coming in. Here's one of our groups of our guests that we're having for our September podcast. Super exciting. So why don't you guys all just start doing some introductions, just say your name and the ranks that you held when you were officer. And anyone can go first.
I'll go first. My name's Kai. I used to march with the Everett Eagles drill team. I've held second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and captain. Yeah.
Awesome.
So my name is Sarah, and I actually used to march proudly for the Burien Eagles junior drill team, which is no longer, sadly, part of SDTA, but I actually held sergeant all the way up to captain.
Nice.
My name's Adrian. Wait, can you guys hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. My name's Adrian. I used to be on Eastside Precision, and I held sergeant, second lieutenant, and then first lieutenant.
So I guess I'll go. I'm Alina. I was on the Everett Eagles drill team, and I have been sergeant, second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and captain.
Nice. And Ivy, Cassie, do you guys want to introduce yourselves?
Hi, I'm Ivy. I'm on the Senoritas and I'm helping with the podcast.
Hi, my name's Cassie and I am the adult podcast advisor.
Well, thank you guys all for being here today. Super awesome that we can reunite people from all different generations and all different teams of drill to come and just talk about officer tryouts for the people on drill right now. So we have some questions that were actually submitted from people trying out this year and just people who aren't officer that just, or maybe they are officer, just have some questions. So I guess we'll start answering those. So the first one, how do you show dedication, leadership, and confidence when you're trying out? Also, anyone can answer these. or like add on to other people. If we go off track, that's fine. Just okay. Do you guys want me to repeat the question?
Yes, please.
Okay, sorry. I just thought I'd say that and I forgot about it. How do you show dedication, leadership, and confidence when you're trying out?
Confidence, definitely body language, like shoulders back, chin up, the way that you call, like calling from your gut and not just from your throat, and the way that you say calls.
Yeah.
Just holding yourself proud and like you want to be there, like you're going out on the competition floor, basically.
Definitely, yeah.
Mhm.
Think like, oh, sorry.
No, honey, go ahead.
Like if there's any, like aside from the marching part, if your team does like, you need a form that you need to sign, or you need like to fill out a like Microsoft team, not Teams, like Google Sheets, or I'm not hitting the right thing, but like a survey, like do those like well and completely useful sentences and stuff, and like make sure they're on time by like not 2 minutes.
Yeah, definitely.
Awesome. So I know for me, it was always about planning my routine ahead of time, right? Like, what did I want the girls to do when I was in command of the team? That was really important for me. And then just learning expectations, like what is the expectation of the tryout? What needs to happen, in what order, and really what are the drill mistresses looking for?
Definitely, yeah. To say, especially if your team, because I know teams do officer tryouts differently, but if your team looks at like your year round, like your presence year round, definitely like try and show like leaderships in like other ways throughout the year, like Adrian was saying, turning in forms on time if you have forms, or practicing outside of practice to show like your dedication to drill and like going above and beyond throughout the year.
Alina, did you have anything to add?
You know, I think that everybody is pretty spot on with everything. You know, just knowing where your team is while you're trying out, and, you know, making sure that you're in control of, you know, what's going on. If they're on the wrong foot, making sure that you correct that.
Yeah.
I see. All right, so the second question is, what was your favorite thing about trying out?
Oh my goodness. I don't know that I had a favorite thing. I think that going into that until I was done, I was just a ball of nerves. Because I can't, you know, I could see how I was doing and thought I was doing okay, but then it, you know, well, is that what they're seeing? Do they see that too? So it was just, for me, I don't know that it was a favorite, but once I was done, that sigh of relief knowing that, okay, I did it and I put my whole self out there and gave 110% that whole time.
Yeah, there's a feeling of accomplishment that goes along with that same thing of like after you finish and like you follow your team or follow the team out after you like finish your whole routine, and it's just like, wow, you know, I just did a really big thing. I tried out for officer, like completed everything. I don't know. That's what I felt when I first tried out.
Well, and I think too, and again, I think you guys called that out really nicely about every team doing things differently, but it's also about showcasing how you can use different pieces of prior competition routines within a tryout, different, I would say more technically difficult, basically hand and marching maneuvers. And then really for our team, and again, I would assume this for all teams, knowing where to be on the floor during those routines, right? That is really kind of critical as well, that you, number one, can showcase that you are obviously in control of the situation, but two, knowing where to be in the best places for the judges to see you at.
Yeah. I think like especially if you're trying out for the first time, it can be like a really different experience for drill, like as opposed to like going through parades or doing a comp routine. It's like you have your little chance to like try out being in control and having that leadership role. And it's really fun, especially after trying out a bunch of times and like seeing and helping new people like learn these skills and like give it a go. It's fun. It's really nice.
Yeah, I'm with Adrian. It's like that, aside from like going on the competition floor, that's like the one time where you can really like show how much you've improved and like what you've learned, and you can like see how much the other individuals on your team have like also improved, and see how much work and dedication that they've put in to try to move up in ranks. And I think it's really cool. I've always enjoyed officer tryouts.
Ivy, Cassie, do you guys have anything you want to add?
I think
I loved trying out. Sorry, Ivy.
Oh, I was just saying they all said it perfectly. But you can go now.
I loved trying out and just the sense of accomplishment that came along with it afterwards, and knowing that it's the only time that it's like individualized. The rest of the time, everything's team driven, and it's the only time that you can work hard on one specific thing and end up shining just as an individual and showing what you are able to give to the team.
Yeah. Sure. All right. Does anyone else have anything they want to add for that question? No? Awesome. We'll move on then. What do you do to keep calm? It's a tricky one.
Lots of kind of shaking out the nerves before you go up to do your trying out, and then a lot of deep breath, breathing in and out, just telling yourself that you can do this and that you've got this, and then just kind of shake them off and just breathe for a minute.
Oh, 100% true. That was totally on point. The other thing I kind of noted down was just being prepared, right? Organized in thought, and just kind of visualizing what, how you plan on performing the routine and or kind of meeting expectations. Absolutely.
Yeah, like when I'm like getting ready to try out, I usually have like a little acronym of all the drills I'm planning to call in my head. So I'll like repeat that over and over again to just like go back to something familiar.
Smart. Very smart.
Very smart. Awesome.
Mm-hmm. I'd always just try to remind myself, like, this is just this is one time. Try not to overthink things, because like if I overthink it, I'm just going to get in my head and I'll probably end up making more mistakes than I actually want to. And just remind myself to just like lay it all out there. That's the best I have in that moment. And I'm doing the best that I can, and I'm there to like try to not necessarily like prove myself as an officer, but just like show what I can do and show what I'm capable of, and just try to have confidence in myself and try to put it all out there in my marching.
Nice.
With practice. So I would say practice makes better. And practice, if you mess up, practice it with confidence. Like, it's confidence. It'll all help.
100%.
Yeah. If you practice like you're going to nail the routine that you've made, you're more likely to nail the routine that you've made than if you like, kind of do this. So yeah.
Well, and remember that you really are the only one that knows the actual routine. So as you kind of maintain composure and confidence, only you're the one that's going to know if something was out of order or just was forgotten altogether. So that's something else too, to just kind of stay composed and in the moment.
Yeah. I think another thing that helped me get through my first officer tryout and like all the nerves was that it's like whatever happens afterwards, like, or just everything, it's you got like a learning experience out of it. That's what my instructors, they told me, because I was like, oh, I don't know if I want to, and they're like, well, at least like you can get the experience from it, you can like learn some things, you can
100%.
like looking at it from a positive way rather than focusing on all the negatives that will happen.
Mhm.
Not like they will, not like negatives will happen, but like negatives that could happen. Or is
Yeah.
that wrong?
Does anybody have anything they want to move to the next one? You guys all good? Okay. The next question is, what should you do if you make a mistake?
Oh, power through it. Act like you meant to do it. Too.
Absolutely.
If you have enough confidence in it, they won't even
Yes.
know that you messed
Nope.
up.
Won't even know.
Exactly.
Move on.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Perfect. Nailed it.
Yeah. Nobody knows your routine except for you.
Right.
Yep.
So if you make a
100%.
mistake and you do it confidently, everyone will think it's part of your routine.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah.
Does anyone else want to add anything to that one?
Don't react. No facial expressions. Just like we've said already, just act like you meant to do it and keep going.
Mhm.
Absolutely. Yeah, the facial expressions is totally spot on. That's usually what they're watching for, is how you're reacting to everything. So perfect.
I started thinking about them as less of mistakes and just like unplanned things that happened. Just roll with it.
Nice, nice. It's a
Way to
great way
think.
to think about it.
Keeping a positive mindset.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Because if you think, oh, I'm going to make this mistake, oh, I'm going to make that mistake, or like I've made so many mistakes, then you're just going to continue to get into that funk and continue making mistakes.
So anyone else want to add anything to that question? No? All right, then we'll move on then. Are you judged on your entire drill year?
Yes.
Yes.
Maybe not like judged, but they take the entire year into consideration, like attendance, behavior, dedication, how much effort you're putting into it, how many events you go to, like everything.
How are you supporting littles? Right.
Yeah.
If you're a big girl, absolutely. Yeah. Oh yeah. They're watching.
Our instructors would tell us all year round, remember, we're watching for tryouts.
Yeah, ours would as well. Yeah, 100%.
Like
Oh,
right
yeah.
after tryouts, we're watching for next year's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like they
Got
do that
it.
every team. So we're
Ours
watching.
are just like a little sneakier. They'll tell you, but like every once in a while. So they'll see like, do you remember, like, are you being a leader for the sake of it, or are you like,
Yeah.
I remember with our instructors, they would like come up to us like individually sometimes, or like that's like one person be like, "Wow, like I love the leadership. Like we're watching for officers next year."
Mhm.
I'm like, "Oh, that's right."
Little reminders here and there.
Yeah,
Keep
And
you
then-
on your toes.
yeah. And I want to emphasize too, if you miss like one event or if you like miss a practice or something, it's not the end of the world. Like they're not going to be like, oh, you missed one practice out of 52 weeks in a year. Like you can't be. They'll never do that. It's like if you're missing practice, like if you miss like 20 practices in a row
Right.
and then show up to one and be like, oh, I'm back. And then like don't show up again, like stuff like that.
Mhm.
Does anybody have anything else?
I was just gonna say, and if you think about it, being an officer is being a leader, and so from at every single practice and at every single event and everything that happens, whether you're an officer or not, it shines if you're attempting to be a leader or if you are naturally a leader. And
Mhm.
so looking for those characteristics and the qualities of leaders throughout the year is definitely going to be part of tryouts. It's not just the one day.
Mhm.
Correct.
Lead by example.
Nicely said.
Yes.
Are you guys ready to go to the next question now? Okay. What is one benefit to being an officer? Or at least one?
Oh, there's so many.
You can list as many as you want.
I like just being being able to see like what it was like being in like a different role, but still being like a part of the team. Yeah, you just get like you're not necessarily like on a higher pedestal, but you have more that you need to think about and like try to remind yourself, because you have a whole team that's looking up to you for guidance. I think that's probably one thing that people don't like about being an officer, but I really liked it. I like trying to lead by example and show the other team members like this is something good that you can do in the future, and just being a good example for the other teammates.
Yeah. And so once you become an officer, you become a role model for
Oh, absolutely.
the littles on your team, the team members on your team. If you're a higher ranking officer, for the lower ranking officers on your team, for the team members on every other team, like you become a big role model to everybody.
Yeah, for me, it was just like being a mentor, either for non-officers or, again, as you just mentioned, brand new officers, and then really just being in a position where you were looked to kind of redirect bad behavior, as well as kind of support and mediate between members, kind of to keep that drama at bay, and just, truthfully, I loved like leading parades, right? Like just being in that position where you actually were given the control of the team for that moment. And again, to your point earlier, not everybody wants that necessarily, but it really builds character, kind of during your drill time and then in the future. I think about my drill time all the time. Now that I'm fully invested in my career and just how it shaped me. I'm kind of going through college and then in career. So it really kind of allows some individuals to kind of push through that shyness, and to really kind of see how they can really shape the minds of littles and of others. It's an amazing opportunity.
I 100% agree. Like after being in in the field that I'm in for a couple of years and just like going and working in the adult world, I have a much greater appreciation for like the skills and things that I've learned, not just from being a team member, but specifically from being an officer.
I mean, like, what came to mind for me, like, all this is deep, and then I was just like, the leadership conference is pretty fun too.
Oh yeah,
Like
Definitely.
like it's a good place to learn and meet new people, and like it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
For me, being a role model, being able to lead by example, for those that were looking to try out in the future, being able to show them what an officer and their responsibilities looks like. And then for me, the biggest thing I enjoyed doing as an officer was helping out the teammates that were either just starting and didn't know the hand movements and, all the movements we did, or those that were struggling a little bit, being able to be there and to help them and to watch them learn and grow throughout the years as being an officer.
I love that. Yes, totally on point.
It's all really well said.
Oh yeah.
Does anyone else want to add anything before we move on to our last question? Is it our last one? Oh, it's not the last one. Just kidding.
Two more.
Just two more. Two more. I'm like looking at them on my phone. I'm like, I only see one more. There's two. Does anyone have anything else before we move on then? No? Awesome. Okay. What are the responsibilities of being an officer? Like when you become an officer, like what like extra things do you pick up? Responsibilities.
You get to help like behind the scenes a little bit more. Like I remember before I was an officer, the night before a competition, we would always have a sleepover. And we would go through the movement, go through hand drills that we needed to work on, just practice, set goals for ourselves for the next day. And then everybody would have an early bedtime, but the instructors and the officers would stay up and they would like prep uniforms and everything and get them ready for the next day. So that was pretty cool to be able to not just having like a later bedtime than the other kids, but just being able to like see like get one-on-one time with the instructors and like see what they do behind the scenes and how much it takes to really like lead a team, and just be able to see like everything that it takes from their standpoint.
Yeah.
Nice.
Helping create the competition movements.
Ooh,
I know
yes.
times have changed, but back when I was an officer, we had to either come up with the movement ourselves or we had to help create it. That was a big one because you go from just being told, do this, go here, to, well, now you've got to be the one that's got to come up with that. That was one of my favorite things to do, was to help come up with it or to create parts of it or all of it.
That's awesome.
Totally agree.
That's awesome.
Mm-hmm.
It seems like I would say that once you are an officer, right, it's displaying poise and confidence, definitely being a good listener. Really loved the comment earlier about just guiding new members on expectations, on what to do, and then just teaching them about just some basic kind of hand maneuvers. That was really fun. And then, as I've already mentioned, just kind of leading the team when asked, even during practice, right? So even if you're the highest ranking officer, just having to lead the team, right? And really just to step right in. And again, it builds so much character during that time of your life and later on. So it's really a cool thing.
Yeah. I like our officers like slowly gain responsibilities over years. So like especially when we're not in comp season, a lot of the times officers are the ones like planning practices and stuff. It's like it's our job to feel out what the team needs and to be able to give it to them in like the best, like neatly packaged way as we can.
Yeah. Definitely.
For me, when I became an officer, I definitely gained like the responsibilities of putting certain things away at parades that I didn't have to do before, and then making sure that everybody is like focused at practices and stuff, so that there isn't too much goofing around, is one thing that I gained as a responsibility. So.
Paying attention to time frames and getting practices started without having to be told by instructors, hey, it's time, let's go.
Oh, 100%.
That now fell in our lap as officers. Okay, well, you guys know, you know what time we start, you know what time we do things, you know how we do things, and now as an officer, it's your responsibility to get that going. We shouldn't have to tell you to to get things done.
Adding on to that, with my team, I don't know about everyone else's, but like officers are expected to be at practice 10 minutes early and stay until the last person leaves practice. And like, or I don't know, just things like that of like, you spend more time focusing on drill, I guess is what I'm trying to get at, which I don't know. That's one of my favorite parts of being an officer. 'Cause yeah. Anyways.
Nice. Anybody else have anything they wanted to add to this one? No? Okay. So the last question is, what is the importance of team members?
Without them, you wouldn't be in the
That's right.
position you're in.
That's
Yeah.
right.
Without
100%.
them, there's no one to lead. There's no one to march.
Right.
Mhm.
100%. And truly, I think that, again, as officers, as the team is acting in good faith and good sportsmanship of themselves and of others, that only just showcases how well of a team and its members are working together as a team. And I know that when there is a couple of individuals kind of messing around and not acting in the best faith of the team, it brings the team down. So it's really important to keep the members kind of mission and focus. And again, that's kind of a technical word, but just knowing kind of the reasons why everybody is gathered and the purpose and the mission, but to obviously have fun as well.
Does anyone want to add anything more to that question? No? Alrighty. Well, that was our last question that we had for you guys. Yeah. Thank you so much for coming. Do you guys want to add anything else?
Good luck to everyone who's trying out.
Yeah. Good luck. It's definitely worth at least like doing it. Just try out.
Yes.
If you like it. But there's definitely a lot of benefits to being a leader, and I think anybody can be a good leader if you put your heart into it.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Scared or not, try it. You will gain experience from it and you will learn from it.
Yeah.
Well, nice to meet you guys.
Hmm.
Thank you so much for being guests on the podcast. We appreciate it.
Yeah. Thank you for all your thoughtful answers and very much appreciated.
Thank you for the invitation. Yeah, thanks for having us.
Thanks for having me.
Right. Hi, everyone. Thank you for coming and joining us on our podcast. So do we want to start with introductions? Just everyone say their name and their officer ranks that they held in their team and everything.
Sounds good.
So anyone can start. It doesn't have to be a certain order.
I'll start. I'm Heather Larson. I was on the Ballard Eagles drill team from 1981 until 1991. Ranks I held were second lieutenant and captain.
I'll go next. My name is Brooke Rose. I was on the Little Senoritas and the Las Senoritas from 2004 to 2014, and I held ranks second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and captain.
I'll go next. So my name is Tiffany Johnson. I was on the Gunslingers drill team. I can't remember the exact years, but for 10 years, holding ranks from sergeant, first lieutenant, and captain.
Okay, I'll go. My name is Kelly Rogaski, and I was on the Ballard Eagles drill team from 1996 to 2006, and I held the officer ranks of second lieutenant, first lieutenant, and captain.
Awesome. Thanks for being here, everyone. I'm Maddie. Should probably provide my name and the emails and everything. So I guess we'll start with the question. So our first question, these were actually submitted anonymously from team members who are trying out for officer this year. So super exciting.
I like that.
Yeah, super great. We have lots of good questions. And if we go on like tangents or anything like that, we don't have to like stick exactly to the questions too. So the first question is, does an officer need to have perfect or near perfect attendance?
I would say no. I mean, it's better the more attendance that you have, the more things that you participate in all year long is going to be more to your advantage. But I didn't ever have perfect attendance, and I still made captain, first lieutenant, and second lieutenant.
I'll jump in.
Oh, go Heather, go.
No, you go, Kelly.
I was going to say, just to kind of add on to what Brooke said is, yeah, I don't think attendance quite matters. I mean, case in point, like, you, Maddie, like you were gone, a lot of the summer, and it doesn't always depend on attendance. It really comes down to the leader and team member you are. That's the biggest thing. Attendance does help, but it's not the final, like the end all be all.
I would say that attendance is important in regards to competition season and in regards to upholding your duties as an officer. So if you've committed to something, then showing up for what you've committed to, that's important. That shows your character.
Definitely, yeah.
Yeah, I would agree with all of those. Coming from the gunslinger standpoint, attendance is always an important part of being an officer, especially because you are a leader. Pardon me. I wouldn't say you have to have perfect attendance, but I would definitely say don't have poor attendance. Traditionally, and I'm not saying this is for everyone, but it is a preteen to teenage age role that an officer is a preteen to teenager, and we understand there's other commitments in life outside of drill that you want to partake in. So, but if you want to be an officer, just know you are making a commitment to that leadership role that you are going to be responsible for.
Definitely, yeah. Does anyone want to add anything else before we move on? All right, we'll move on to our next question then. How do you know if you will be a good officer?
I would say if you are dedicated to your team and your team is important to you, they matter to you, and you put them first as much as you can, you're going to make a good officer. Your team members are going to know that you respect them and that you care for them and that you're doing your best to uphold your duties to them, and that's going to make you a good officer.
I would say that a lot of people go into wanting to be an officer for the glory of being an officer at the first mindset. I think that the younger you are, the less experienced you are, that's kind of where your mindset is. But as you grow as a person and as a team member, you start to understand that the team is what matters most. And you, as an officer, are there to guide and teach. And your role as an officer is to be a mentor, meaning that, you're going to lead by example. And so if you know that you can handle that, I think that is what, you have to feel it in your heart. And I think that when the time is right, it's right.
Yeah. So I have some answers to Stephanie. She was Kelly or Heather. Do you know the exact ranks? Or like, do you know, Stephanie was from Ballard. Do you know what rank she held?
Yeah, so Stephanie, she was a B team captain in 1997, and she held the ranks of sergeant, first lieutenant, and captain.
So thank you. So she could not be here today, unfortunately, but she did submit answers to the questions so that I could share them so she could still be a part of the podcast. And to answer this question, she said, you don't truly know. It really is a learning experience, and you may or may not have the ability to lead right out of the gate, but everyone is capable of being a good officer if you apply yourself, which I think is a really good answer.
Yeah, I think from my own experience in both coaching officers and being an officer myself is going into the role, and this kind of combines both what Brooke and Heather talked about. If you're going more from a perspective that you want to lead and you care about the team, and it's not, I want this role because I want power, that's not the right mindset for this, and you're not going to be a good officer stepping in with that mindset. But if you're going in because you want to improve the team, you want to help them grow, experience wise and not membership wise, then I think you're going to be fine being an officer.
Yeah. I know something with me is that when I thought about when I first started trying out for officer was my passion for drill and how much of that, because if I don't have the passion, like if my heart is truly not set for drill, then it wasn't something that I really wanted to do. But because I don't know, I thought about it and I was like, I really think my passion is there. It's for that, so I tried out and I'm officer now. I think, yeah, you need to have the passion for drill. If you don't have the passion, then it's hard to lead an activity that other people. If that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Does anyone else want to add anything onto that question? All right. What is the best way to prepare for officer tryouts?
Practice.
Yeah, I was just gonna say practice. Practicing a lot. I would practice in my apartment, like my apartment complex where the cars parked or whatever. And when the cars weren't there during the day, and I would practice out there, and I probably looked a little bit funny because I didn't have a team that I was practicing with. I was just by myself, but I did it all the time. And even in the reporting in and reporting out, especially because you want to make sure you get your words right and you want to make sure that you're saying that correctly. So practicing reporting in and reporting out is very significant.
Yep, exactly. I remember it being, early on in my officer career, like we were at a laundromat, which is my family was, and I was outside practicing because, being an officer was something that I really wanted. So
that's passion.
Yep, that's the passion. So if you really want it, practice it. And if your team requires you to write up a routine and you have to perform your routine, then make sure you're practicing that, not just at your drill team practices, but at home. Make sure you're memorizing it and being the best, putting your best step forward.
I would say that, sometimes people go into trying out for officer and they might not fully understand commands. We've run into that in the past, and a lot of that has to do with when people are newer on the team and they don't have quite the grasp of the difference between ready to and ready front. And even though they can do it by someone commanding them, actually knowing the difference in their actual use of commanding the team is something to make sure that you really know what the commands mean, why the teams use the commands that they do. And then knowing your routine inside and out and being able to do it without looking at it well in advance of tryouts and not just the week of tryouts, having nailed it. You should be able to memorize it before you go to sleep. You should be able to walk through it. You should have already worked on your place as positioned with the team. So, where you center yourself with the team. You should be thinking about all of those things well in advance of tryouts. And again, reporting in and out is super important because that sets the tone for your entire tryouts. That when you report in, that is going to set what the judge's first impression of you is.
Yeah. I think adding on to that as well, it's like if you need definitely practice reporting out, but if you don't know what to say, for example, you can utilize your resources that you have. So you can ask your instructors or previous officers or people like that, or if you have questions on the difference between ready front and ready to, utilize your resources. And also what I did is I stood in front of a mirror and I just sat there practicing everything. And I would film myself like multiple times a week and watch it and practice.
Good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I was gonna say one thing that I used to do is same with it or what everybody else said was I would also practice like worst case scenarios. So for instance, you know, you fold your team in and you are behind your team. How do you get around your team confidently and just kind of just knowing that plan B, or if a mistake happens, already having that like practice thought of like, if this happens, this is what I'm going to do. If I forget this drill, okay, what's my next drill I'm going to call? Just kind of practice that worst case scenario always helped me, because I think every time I tried out, I forgot something or I messed it up. Like, but I always would panic and I'd always have a plan B scenario. So
That's a good idea.
Definitely. All right. What do you do when you're an officer, then the next year you become a lower rank, or you don't make an officer, or you don't make officer at all?
That's tough. That has happened to me when I was on the B team, when I was on the little senoritas. I had made captain, and then the following year I went down to first lieutenant, and I was first lieutenant for the next 2 years, and then I ended up moving up to the A team and going up in rank in the A team. But it's devastating at first. It's definitely hard, but you still want to be there for your team. And to go back to what you were talking about with passion, it's like when you're so passionate about your team and about what you're doing, lowering a rank or not making anything at all, it's going to sting at first, but then it's not. You kind of get over it, to be honest, and you're there and you're passionate about your team and you're doing what's best, and you're supportive of the people who did make a rank above you, because it's really important to have sportsmanship, and it's really important to still, you know, congratulate and be happy for the people who did make rank.
Yeah, something that my instructors have been telling me every year at awards ceremonies and stuff like that is that if you do get demoted, or you don't become an officer the next year if you were an officer before, it's always, you can always sit there and congratulate your team and be happy for the people who did. And then if you do have like a lot of those feelings, like not like take them home, but like don't express that in front of like your whole entire team.
Yeah. Go ahead, Heather.
It's really important to reflect on the reasoning behind being lowered in a rank. And it's very hard, empathetically wise. Instructors never want to see someone go down in a rank, but sometimes things happen that create a situation where a demotion, or maybe somebody just skyrockets and just another person just rocked it through the whole year and just, you know, became a different type of leader. I would say, though, to reflect on it so that you can learn to grow and learn to get past it for the next year. And as Maddie said, taking it outside is more to give honor to the person that is now in the role, and also to show your team that the team comes first, and that, you know, you are a team member and you are with them all the way, regardless of what happens.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I was gonna say I had this similar experience to Brooke, where I was captain, and then the next year I was first lieutenant. And my experience is a little different though, because I knew as soon as tryouts were over that this other person they did way better than me. So I was already mentally and physically prepared by the time that, you know, banquet and award came around. I'm also the type of person though who views things as things happen for a reason. And I was first lieutenant for years leading up until I got my captaincy. And then going back, I was still first lieutenant several years after. I'm like, this was just my role. I was just destined to be a first lieutenant. I got my experience as a captain and it was great, but I'm supposed to be the supporting person, really. And I was happy with it. And I supported my captain through the whole year. It was her first time ever being a captain. She was the one who had skyrocketed in rank as well. So I was okay with it, but I do understand the emotional challenges you may face if you are demoted.
Definitely. Adding on to a lot of those answers, Steph said, as hard as it is, accepting that it's the reality and maybe asking your instructors what you can do in the future. It's kind of going back to what Heather said of reflecting on your past year and tryouts and stuff like that, and trying to see how you can grow and learn. Yeah. Does anyone want to add anything else before we move on? No? Alrighty, next question. What do you do to strengthen your voice for calling?
Practice. Practice, practice, practice. Call from your diaphragm. Put your hands on your diaphragm. Hold it there. Make sure that you're working it. Don't scream. And ask for help. Because your instructors have been there before, coach many captains, and the best way to learn about your voice and how to use it is to get help. And when I was on Ballard, the year that I made captain, Katie McQuillan was one of my instructors and would stand at the end of the field, and I had to be able, she had to clearly be able to hear me clearly at the other end of the field. And it helped me because we worked back and forth on, you're yelling this part, bring your diaphragm up, call from your diaphragm, and having someone else work with me on that rather than just being out there calling to the wind. It was very helpful. Find a mentor.
Yeah, find a mentor. Katie Wells was my instructor. She was Katie Merritt for a while, and then Katie Wells, and she did the same thing that you were talking about, Heather, where she always held my diaphragm and she would hold me up straight, and I was like, oh, okay. And like I really could feel the difference in it, and just having her helping me in that one step, I got it, how to have a deeper voice, how to strengthen your voice.
I can add on. I mean, just like what Heather had said, Katie McQuillan was the same for me too. Is she would stand at the end of the field and be like, I can't hear you, I can't hear you. And another trick that I always did that I would tell our captains too is, lay on the floor and stack books on your stomach. And if your books are moving when you're calling, that means you're calling from your stomach and not your diaphragm, because your diaphragm shouldn't go up and down when you're calling. And that was a good trick too that I would always use.
I like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was good. Yeah, I don't know I can't remember who taught me that, if it was Steph or Holly, but one of them told me that when I was trying out to be captain too, an officer.
So
from my own experiences in coaching girls, because for me, my voice always came naturally, so I never had to really work on it. But you do, you want to make sure that you practice enunciating as well. You want to be very clear in what you're saying. And one of the things we harp on a lot is don't sing your way through your reporting and reporting out. It's not a song. So put those little breaks in between the words. And what I used to tell my girls is actually, get a little angry, put a little force in there, like you're yelling at a sibling or something. Like, this is your time. You need to command them and show them who's in charge. Your little meek voice isn't going to scare people. So, reach in there and find that officer voice. It's in there.
Exactly. Tell them. Don't ask them.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
okay, so for our next question, it is, what words of advice do you have to those who are trying out?
Be yourself. Be authentically yourself. And you've practiced for it, and you've prepared for it. So go in there with confidence. And as I always say, if you do it wrong with confidence.
I like that. Take a deep breath. Just take a deep breath, because it becomes very overwhelming very quickly. And when you become officer and you're going into competitions or you're going into parades or whatever you're going into, just remember to take a deep breath, because it sometimes gets your nerves a little bit. But calming down always seems to help when I was in the position.
Practice, as we've been talking about in almost every question. Practice, make sure you feel confident when you go in. What else would I say? I'm gonna just leave it at that right now. Just practice and feel confident.
Yeah. One piece of advice is kind of similar to the confidence part of that, is if you make a mistake, do it with confidence. So that if you do it and if you make a mistake and you do it super confidently, and like, who's gonna know that that wasn't meant to be there? Whereas if you make a mistake and you're like fumbling all over the place and your face shows it, then people are gonna know that you did make a mistake. And then Steph also had some advice. Believe in yourself. It'll show either way. Know this is a learning experience and do your best.
I would say the advice that I would give is totally dating myself. Well, maybe, but the movie Miss Congeniality with Sandra Bullock, when she's running for queen and he's like chatting her up, like getting her inspired, is, be the crown, wear the crown, you are the crown. And so telling yourself that, being like, be an officer, you are an officer, wear the braids, wear the bars, like, it's so true. If you see yourself as an officer and you march and you call as the officer you want to be, it will come through, versus being like, oh my goodness, I don't know if I know this, or I don't know if I can do it. Be that position in that moment and it will come through and you'll just soar on your tryouts.
Yeah, that's good.
Does anyone want to add anything else?
Yeah, one thing I was thinking also is treat it like a competition. Leave it all on the floor. Give it everything that you've got.
Definitely, yeah.
Don't leave yourself with doubt that you could have put more into it. You just, as Kelly said, wear the crown. Do it.
Definitely, yeah. Being at 110%. Ready? We ready to move on to our next one?
I think so.
So, okay. What tips do you have for people trying out?
To differentiate this one from the last question, I would say don't just show up and give your best when you are commanding as the officer. Show up for the rest of your team while everyone else is having their go as well, because people, if you only give it when it's your turn, then you're not really setting the example or the role or being the role model as an officer. An officer should do it 100% of the time. So in an officer tryout situation, make sure you're there for everyone else as well.
I like that. You want to put forth your best effort for the rest of your teammates the way that you would want them to put forth their best effort for you during your tryout. Yeah.
Practice like you're a champion. It goes along with wear the crown and the other comments as well. Just go out there like you own it, and when you're preparing, practice like you've already got it. Own it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, kind of go what Tiffany and Brooke said, is march as if you were trying out the whole time, whether it was the 2 hours or an hour and a half. And I know from experience as a past instructor, is we would actually sometimes have somebody judging you guys in race. And that way it showed whether you were just marching your hardest for yourself or if you're marching your hardest for yourself and your team. And as a judge at trials for, I am judging, but I how you were before and how you were after. And I can't change it after, but I have told instructors like this kid or, you know, this person, they were just sloppy the whole time until they got up to bat, and it was like game on. And you got to be careful, you know, you need to, you know, practice and march your hardest the whole time through and through. Put your team first, and then you put yourself next.
Definitely. So all really great answers. All right, so on to our next question. If you do not become an officer, what can you do as a teammate?
Still give forth your best effort like you would as if you were an officer, because you're still showing up for your team. You're still part of that team, even though you didn't make rank. You are still one piece of that whole team, and that one piece is just as much needed as the rest of the pieces are.
Yeah. Oh wait, did you want to go?
Sure. I was just gonna say, don't get discouraged. There's always next year, and tagging on with what Brooke was saying, you can basically be an officer without the fancy title and all the extra ornaments that go with it. You can still be a leader and a role model for the rest of your team. You can still ask to help out, and a lot of that does go into consideration when instructors are looking for officer tryouts the next year. You know, how was this person through this whole last year? Were they a leader? Did they help, or were they just showing up to show up? So don't get discouraged and still try. You know, if you want the part, act the part.
Yeah, I think adding on to that one, I don't know what it's for every team, because every team has a different tryout routine situation thing. But for my team, our instructors look at how we are year round. So even if you are a teammate, like let's say you tried out for officer and you didn't get it, and now your teammate is still doing things that show initiative, like, oh, if you need to go home and practice, go home and practice. Or like we had practice logs for a while where we logged our practice minutes during COVID, and doing like going above and beyond and doing exceptional and stuff like that, and still showing that you're there and still showing your spirit for drill, and yeah, still putting 110% into everything you do drill wise, even though you're not an officer. Kind of like what you were just saying, Tiffany, of like doing everything you can without the ornaments and the extra stuff of being an officer.
I know for me, I didn't make officer for many years because the team that I was on growing up was very experienced, had a lot of older kids, and then they held rank for a long time. And you kind of had to wait for people to retire to make officer. And in that time, we had some great mentorships from the older kids as being a younger kid. So my goal every year was, of course, I wanted to make officer someday, but I knew it was going to take time. So I would take the initiative to do when it came to fundraising, or we had bingos or things, you know, team events, but just making sure that I always showed up and gave that extra 110%. March, you know, competition time, just marching like you owned it. And then also, you know, there's a lot of other awards that happen throughout the year that all the different teams have. And I just aspired to get as many as I could through hard work. Of course, nothing is handed to you. And that's why making an officer takes time, because you earn it through hard work, dedication, and showing up and putting your all in all the time. You have to show up at all events, all in for your team, and be the best teammate you can be. Be supportive, and sportsmanship is such a huge part of that. I can't say enough about sportsmanship, because being there for your team is leadership in itself.
Yeah, that was really well said. Right, does anyone want to add anything else on?
I don't think so.
All right, moving on to our last question. What is the importance of teammates?
Teammates help you grow.
They do. Your teammates make your team. They make you who you guys are. You know, you are like, I remember growing up and with like, when one person ended up retiring or not being the part of the team anymore, or you gain a new team member, it's like it's like you're your own family, your own little drill team family. Very important. And the importance of being a team member is huge, because you make up part of who your team is.
We're all links in a chain as a team, and every link is important. And when one link gets weak, we as the rest of the team need to help that link, that team member, remember why they love drill, and remember that it's a family first and foremost before anything else. And so all of those links, when they're all taught and they're working well together, that is a really, really strong team and a strong family. And that's what you're there for each other.
Yeah, tying in with this too, and just going into an adult life, drill greatly helps you prepare for having a job. I mean, understanding how to be an officer and a leader and also a teammate prepares you so much for entering a workforce, and understanding, you know, those balances and how to work with people, because drill, your team is the same way. You're understanding how I can work with this person. You may not have personalities that match. You may have someone you clash with, but you're understanding we're both on this team. We both have a common goal. How can we work together? And that's skills that will take you far in life.
Definitely, yeah. Right, does anyone want to add anything on?
I'd like to add something on just to the officership itself, and especially the rank of captain as being the lead officer, is that I've seen lots of officers and lots of captains throughout the years. And the most successful captains are the ones that are part of their team, that are not there for the glory of being captain, that are there and they put their team first, always. Team first captains, team first officers always build more success within their team. When it's about the glory of a one individual, it's no longer a team.
I would agree with that. I've seen several, and just within our own team in the past, where a captain has been too focused on themselves, and we have lost members due to that, because they didn't feel welcome on their own team anymore.
Yeah, definitely super important. I remember over COVID, the officer team, or the officer group on my team, we all read a book called Leaders Eat Last. It's about Kelly knows. And we did like discussions, not discussions about it, but like we all talked about it as like an officer group. And the book essentially is just putting it in like a few words, is that your team goes before you. Because everything you do, your team comes first. Right. Is there anything else anyone wants to add on about officer tryouts? Or officers?
Yeah,
Everybody
okay.
trying out.
Oh yeah, I was gonna say, yeah, I was gonna say good luck to everyone trying out.
Yeah.
Good luck.
Good luck. So, alrighty. Well, thank you guys for coming on and being a guest on our podcast. It's been so wonderful.
Yeah, thanks for inviting us.
Of course.
We just want to say thank you for watching, and thank you again to the podcast guests. We really appreciate you guys coming on.
Thank you guys. Bye. See you next episode.
Bye. Thank you.